Last time, we stayed near the surface, where the water was still warm and the secrets were still harmless. That ends now. Today we go all the way down, past the lost media, past the things the creators tried to bury, to the single darkest thing hidden in all of Hell Park. Welcome back to the archives. By the time we reach the bottom, you'll understand why some fans believe every South Park AU is quietly doomed, and you'll have seen the one entry this fandom least wants to talk about. This is the second part of our deep dive into the Hell Park Iceberg. If you haven't seen the first installment, I'd strongly recommend starting there. A fair amount of what follows builds directly on the lore, the creators, and the controversies we covered last time. For those of you returning, thank you for sticking with me. We left off near the surface, where the entries were still fairly harmless. From here, it only grows colder and darker. Before we descend, a genuine word of caution. This half of the iceberg touches on heavy subjects: suicide, depression, sexual content, grooming allegations, and harassment. None of it is here to shock or sensationalize. If any of these are difficult for you, please look after yourself first. There are timestamps in the description to skip ahead, and stepping away entirely is always okay. Your well-being matters more than any fan theory. With that said, let's begin our descent. The Imp Families. In the universe of Hell Park, Tweek died before he was ever born, the victim of a car accident. His parents, who in the show are portrayed as drug traffickers and, broadly speaking, rather unpleasant people, ended up in hell. It's never fully explained why Tweek himself wound up there too, given that he's supposed to be innocent. Many fans simply chalk it up to a plot hole. Others, however, offer a tidier explanation. Because Tweek was still in his mother's womb at the time, he was carried down to hell alongside her and was born there instead, going on, against all odds, to live a surprisingly comfortable life as an imp. The character's true heights. This one is mercifully easy to explain. The image on screen shows a chart measuring all of the principal characters against one another, with Pocket standing as the tallest of the cast and Clyde, fittingly as the shortest. A small detail, but the sort of thing fans love to pore over. Medusa and Bebe. Bebe begins Hell Park's story as an ordinary human girl. Owing to an oversight on the part of Red MacArthur, one that was never properly detailed, her body undergoes a transformation, developing the ability to turn people to stone with nothing more than a glance. It's a clear nod to Medusa of Greek mythology. Precisely what role she would have gone on to play in the wider story remains unknown. Les Misérables. Victor Hugo's novel Les Misérables was a major source of inspiration for Matt and Trey during the making of South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut. The characters Gregory and Christopher are lifted directly from that work, which is precisely why, when Hell Park reintroduced the pair, it drew so heavily on the same literary source for their development. I won't dwell too much on spoilers. I genuinely recommend reading the novel for yourself, but it's quite obvious from the images on screen that Gregory's final design was very nearly traced from the stage musical adaptation. Thomas's suicide. Disclaimer: if you are sensitive to topics of suicide, violence, or related subject matter, please feel free to skip ahead to the next entry. Thomas's suicide is, without question, the single most significant change ever made to Hell Park's lore. Following his parents' divorce, something the show itself addresses, Thomas began to sink into a deep depressive episode. In this reality, because Tweek never arrives in South Park, the Asian girls ship Thomas with Craig rather than Tweek, heaping yet more pressure onto a character far less beloved within the town than Tweek ever was. His depression ultimately led him to take his own life 2 years before the story begins, and his death turned Craig into a withdrawn, apathetic figure, permanently fracturing his group of friends. Very little is known about the specifics, as the subject was meant to be explored in far greater depth in the cancelled animation Life and Dead, which would have followed Craig and Thomas as they descended into hell to confront Thomas's deepest fear, and later, the Mgal Mgal. Who or what is the Mgal Mgal? We'll get to that. Whimpering Audios. Across 2023 and 2024, a particularly distasteful trend emerged. Videos depicting Hell Park characters making suggestive, erotic noises. This fad cropped up across countless fandoms, but Hell Park was hit especially hard by it. To slip these clearly inappropriate videos past the algorithm, those uploading them would mask the moans beneath layers of music and label them whimpers, allowing YouTube systems to overlook them entirely. Thankfully, the fandom rallied together to have them taken down, and despite the bad behavior of a stubborn handful of users, the practice is virtually extinct as of the making of this video. New Hell. For a very long time, Hell in the world of Hell Park was a place of pure torment and misery. That changed when Damien seized control of it and, with the help of his boyfriend Pip, reformed Hell into a place of therapy and redemption. Picture Charlie's ideal Hell from Has-Been Hotel, only transplanted into South Park. That's essentially the new Hell that Damien established. Throughout the story, however, this new Hell hangs by a thread, owing to the constant tension with those who still cling to the old infernal philosophy. Miss Havisham was meant to exploit this very crisis, though precisely why, and exactly how, remains a mystery to this day. Drool Brothers is real. Drool Brothers was a fictional band within the Hell Park universe, whose logo could be spotted on various garments and buildings throughout the story. Curiously, though, a band by that name genuinely exists in the real world, although I couldn't turn up a single source confirming any actual connection to the fanfic. Crane said thank you. Here's a genuinely warm one, and we could all use it this far down. The animation known as The Bridge takes both its title and its music from the band Cranes. Now, plenty of fan projects borrow a song and quietly hope nobody important notices, but in this case, the band themselves did notice, and left a comment on the video thanking the creators and remarking on the positive impact it had had on their own audience. In a fandom this fraught, that tiny exchange, a real band, blessing a South Park fan animation, is one of the purest, least complicated good things in the entire Hell Park story. Hold on to it. We're about to need the goodwill. The 2023 Resurgence. Throughout 2023, South Park enjoyed an enormous surge in popularity. This drew a wave of content creators back to discussing the show, and with it, many of them rediscovered the fanfic. Several TikToks managed to shift public opinion firmly in Hell Park's favor after it had spent years being branded problematic following its cancellation. All of this culminated in the single biggest popularity boom the fanfic had ever seen since production first began back in 2019. It 2.1 million reads. It's easy to talk about Hell Park as an English language phenomenon and forget that its single most read incarnation might not be in English at all. A Spanish translation hosted on Wattpad by a translator known as Nibiru Star climbed past 2.1 million reads, a number that dwarfs the reach of plenty of the original posts. For an enormous swathe of the fandom, that translation wasn't a supplement to Hell Park. It was Hell Park, the version they read, quoted, and fell in love with. It's a quiet reminder that in fan spaces, translators aren't a footnote. They're often the reason a story has a second country to live in at all. Peaks. Peaks was a Spanish-speaking content creator who devoted a great deal of his time online to discussing Hell Park and debunking the various allegations leveled against the fanfic. Sadly, he has since retired, though he still dips into the fandom from time to time and is, in fact, the editor of this very video. So if his style felt familiar to you, that's because he was kind enough to lend us a hand. His channel is wonderfully varied and full of genuinely good content. If you speak Spanish, he is absolutely worth a watch. NSFW. One of the great banes of any fandom is NSFW art. There's little point laboring the obvious. Everyone knows that anything popular will inevitably attract it. What fewer people know about Hell Park, however, is that its creator, known during Hell Park as Wire, though you may know her earlier alias Chicken Stab, or her current one, Creature Feaster, was accused on multiple occasions of producing adult artwork, or of planning +18 romantic scenes within the fanfic itself. This, though, should be taken with a generous pinch of salt, as no evidence exists beyond testimony. What was verifiably true, on the other hand, is that ModPip shared plus 18 Hell Park content and liked a great deal of it on social media. Whilst this was done behind closed doors, the fact that someone so closely tied to the project engaged with such material has raised more than a few eyebrows. Dream Theory. The very last official scrap of Hell Park content wasn't a grand finale or a farewell. It was a tiny, almost throwaway AU called Tweek's Here. And from that fragment, the fandom grew one of its tittiest and gentlest theories, that the entire nightmare of Hell Park, the demons, the deaths, the descent into hell itself, was never real, but a dream in Tweek's head, dissolving the moment he wakes into an ordinary world. It's the classic, it was all a dream, usually a cheap trick, but here it lands differently. Because after everything this story puts its characters through, there's a strange mercy in imagining that none of it happened at all, and that somewhere, Tweek simply opened his eyes. The Purgatory Theory. A far darker reading runs in the opposite direction. The Purgatory Theory proposes that everyone in Hell Park, not just the demons, but the humans too, is already dead. That the entire town is trapped in a loop of purgatory, condemned to relive their suffering over and over until they finally repent for their sins and forgive one another. What makes this one stick is how neatly it fits the story's own DNA. Hell Park is, at its core, obsessed with redemption, with trauma, with characters who cannot move forward until they let something go. The theory simply takes that theme and makes it literal, suggesting the whole world is a waiting room and the only exit is grace. The bad trip. And then the simplest theory of them all, the one that quietly dismantles the entire story. What if none of it is real? What if Hell Park is nothing more than one collective, catastrophic drug trip, conjured by the marijuana the boys smoked in the very first scene, right before they ever touched that Ouija board? Every demon, every death, every descent, just the shared hallucination of a handful of high teenagers who never actually opened a portal to anything. It's reductive, sure, but it's also the kind of theory that's almost impossible to fully disprove, and there's a bleak little irony in the idea that the most beloved horror AU in South Park history might, in the end, just be a bad high. Wire's shared continuity. Wire, the original creator of Hell Park, has been involved in numerous works throughout her time online, the most famous being Hell Park, followed by Clyde's Ballapalooza Extravaganza and Color Quest. There are other AUs of hers besides, such as Sun Valley. The theory of Wire's shared continuity is, in essence, this fandom's equivalent of the Pixar theory, an attempt to thread all of these separate works into a single, consistent timeline. The continuity runs roughly as follows. It all begins when the creator of color brings every possible universe into being. But in that act of infinite love, the creator of color is forced to excise a malignant tumor from his own body, that tumor being the Mgal Mgal. The beast tumbles down to earth, and it is there that the creator of color fills the world with life, the better to counter this evil and let love flourish across the planet. From here, the timelines diverge considerably. There is the world of Color Quest, which unfolds at the same time as Hell Park, but in a different corner of the United States. Clyde's Ballapalooza Extravaganza is simply the tale of Clyde and his adventures around South Park, while Sun Valley is the alternate reality in which no one died and South Park's world carried on exactly as nature intended. Hell Park, however, is the timeline where everything goes wrong, where Tweek dies, Gregory falls into the Grand Canyon, and the hatred festering in human hearts awakens the beast known as the Mgal Mgal. In a sense, Hell Park depicts the cruelest reality of them all, the worst possible ending for every single character, a profoundly dark and despairing world whose inhabitants are condemned to live the very worst of all possible lives. It's an admittedly bleak theory once you account for this timeline, but don't fret, because it has never been confirmed by Wire, and I rather doubt it ever will be. The 60% you were never meant to see. Here's a figure that reframes everything. It's estimated that around 60% of Hell Park's planned narrative actually exists. You just weren't supposed to find it. Rather than being deleted, huge amounts of unfinished animatics, rough sketches, and half-rendered scenes were uploaded to YouTube as unlisted videos, invisible to search, invisible to the channel page, reachable only if you had the exact link. usually buried inside a specific playlist. What that means is staggering. Most of the story we mourn as lost was never truly lost at all. It's been sitting on a public platform this whole time, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone patient enough to dig up the right playlist. A good chunk of the fandom's archival heroics has been exactly that, not recovering deleted media, but locating media that was only ever one dead link away from disappearing for good. The true ending never existed. What if I told you that a true ending for Hell Park never actually existed? Well, technically, if you count supernatural encounters, there is one, though its canonicity is hotly disputed, given that it was written by Russian mods after the cancellation. In reality, Wire had a great many endings in mind for Hell Park. Some involve a climactic battle against Pocket, others focus far more on Craig and Thomas. So, strictly speaking, there is no single true ending for Hell Park. There are several, far too many to list here. If you'd like me to make a video running through them all, do let me know by leaving a comment and subscribing to the channel. Fans finished it themselves. When Wire walked away, the story didn't stop. The fandom simply picked up the pen. Two unofficial continuations rose above the rest. The first, Inner Demons, is admired to the point that some fans argue its artwork actually surpasses the original, no small claim for a project defined by its visuals. The second, Hell Park Reincarnated, earned its own devoted following. And there's something quietly profound in that, an abandoned story that generated enough love to keep being written by people who were never paid, never credited by the original team, and never guaranteed an audience. Hell Park was cancelled. The impulse behind it clearly wasn't. Estella Is Evil. I really do think many of us overlook just how genuinely vile this person is within the world of Hell Park. Granted, in both the novelization and the comic, Estella behaves as she does because she is subjugated by her mother, but none of that excuses the fact that she repeatedly manipulates both her allies and her enemies. Estella was perfectly willing to leave Thomas to die alone in the middle of nowhere, and she would have done exactly that were it not for Gregory's insistence. All of the demons, with the exception of Tweek and Thomas, are wicked, but only up to a point. Even Gregory shows real sympathy towards various humans and towards his allies throughout the story. Estella, by contrast, never once stops to consider anyone else. She wants only to press straight on with the mission, securing her revenge. I'm aware that her redemption arc was planned, with Leslie introducing her to a freer life, a freedom without cruelty. But because the story was cancelled so early, most readers only ever got to see the darker, colder, more calculating side of Estella Havisham. And if she was like that, I shudder to imagine what Miss Havisham herself would have been like had the story continued. Pillows. To soften the entries a little, here's a gentler one. There are several Hell Park character pillows available to buy. They're rather popular and, on the whole, not at all difficult to find. Grooming allegations against Mod Pip and Wire. Once again, a disclaimer, as we're about to discuss something deeply sensitive and something on which, frankly, I cannot offer any fully certain verdict regarding the truth of the accusations. Consider yourselves warned. Mod Pip and Wire have, from the very beginning of their online presence, often been perceived as curt, intensely private people who keep themselves to themselves. This has led many online to speculate about what might lie behind that curtain of reticence. There is a video online known as Exposing Wire/Chicken Stab, in which a user recounts how she was groomed by the creator of Hell Park, offering up a number of examples of how, she says, this was done in deeply unpleasant ways. All of her evidence comes in the form of Discord screenshots, but honestly, some of it looks rather difficult to fabricate. The video has barely any views for something a year old, yet it stands as a testament to something rather dark within the fandom. Combine this with the multiple accusations against Mod Pip, and it leads me to pose the following question. Was Hell Park cancelled out of fear that these two creators would be exposed? Bear in mind that there was a lengthy hiatus prior to Hell Park's cancellation, and that throughout that period there were grooming accusations directed at these two individuals, serious accusations. Seemingly out of nowhere, the entire fandom turned against the fanfic across 2021 and 2022. What if they were actually right? What if this video proves that Wire really is a deeply unpleasant person and that she has done this before? I sincerely hope that isn't the case, but I'll limit myself to simply reporting what happened. I am keeping my own opinion on the matter entirely to myself. Harassment within the fandom. This one can be readily confirmed by anyone who has spent time in the Hell Park fandom. The fandom, combined with the notoriously toxic South Park community at large, tends to be a breeding ground for arguments and extreme abuse. Every single person I've spoken to within this fandom has at least one bad experience with another user. The problem of toxicity is so pronounced that people have compiled entire lists of problematic figures within the community. Here's the thing. The fandom is enormous, and the story, flaws, and all kindles an extraordinary passion in everyone who reads it, for better and for worse. We all come away with at least one strong emotion, and the story runs surprisingly deep for a fanfic. Its animations moved us, its art style captivated us. That stirs up a great deal of passion and a great deal of fervor, and the majority of people in the fandom are no older than 16. Together, it makes for the perfect breeding ground for extreme toxicity. My recommendation, as almost always, is to steer well clear of Discord. The Gregory Recast. Most of the controversies swirling around Hell Park rest on rumor and little else. This one sits on noticeably firmer ground. At some point during the project, Gregory's original voice actor was quietly replaced. The rumor attached to that recast is that it followed the actor interacting with artists who drew inappropriate content, and here's what separates this from the fandom's usual noise. The replacement demonstrably happened. We can see, plainly, that the voice changed. When almost every other allegation in this fandom dissolves the moment you ask for evidence, a claim anchored to something visibly, verifiably real carries a weight the others simply don't. I'll leave the interpretation to you. But of all the whispers down here, this is the one with an undeniable fact sitting underneath it. His Cease-and-Desist Theory. Running quietly alongside the official account of harassment and burnout is a competing whisper, a rival explanation for why Hell Park really died. This one claims the true killer was a cease-and-desist order from South Park's owners, spooked by just how enormous the AU had grown. It's worth being clear. This directly contradicts the documented reasons the creators themselves gave. But it survives anyway, because Hell Park's cancellation has become one of those events the fandom can't stop relitigating, a death with so many proposed causes that people keep inventing new ones. Harassment, exhaustion, legal threats, something darker still. The unsettling truth is that a community this fractured may simply never agree on how its most important story actually ended. The Matt and Trey conspiracy. Now we're getting into properly paranoid waters. One fringe theory holds that Matt Stone and Trey Parker, the actual creators of South Park, secretly funded Hell Park. The supposed motive, a covert marketing play, engineered to pull the shipping and fanfic crowd back toward the official show by feeding them exactly the kind of dark, character-driven material the canon never provides. There is, needless to say, not a shred of evidence for this. But it belongs down here regardless, because it captures something true about fandom psychology. When a fan work becomes too big, too polished, too influential, a certain kind of fan simply can't accept that amateurs did it for free. There has to be a hidden hand. There has to be a conspiracy. There almost never is. Damien sent Pip to hell. This one is real. Damien, Pip's husband, sent the person he loved most to hell. And he did it out of pure selfishness. Damien couldn't bear a life without the only person who had ever truly loved him, so he used all of his influence in the afterlife to deny Pip entry into heaven. This revelation was intended to shatter the trust between Damien and Pip, a perfect Chekhov's gun that would force Damien, for the very first time, to open up to his husband. Don't believe this was meant to happen? That's understandable. After all, every official document on the story lists Pip's fall into hell as a mere accident. But what if I told you that isn't actually the case? In the Spanish translation of Hell Park, you can read, without any censorship or redaction whatsoever, how the creators explicitly planned for Damien to send Pip to hell. This, however, was changed at the very last minute owing to an enormous backlash from the other mods against the idea, and every record of it having been planned was erased or altered, with the sole exception of the translations. The Infection from Hell. The Infection from Hell was a cancelled story that would have chronicled how an unknown virus from hell crosses over into the human race. It was set to be an altered retelling of the events of Hell Park, reframed entirely as a zombie apocalypse. Sadly, not so much as a single storyboard was ever produced for it, and it remains one of the strangest and darkest of all Hell Park's alternate universes. Altariz. Altariz was an English-speaking creator who enjoyed immense popularity throughout 2023. You've likely already seen a good number of her videos, and her impact on the fandom is well worth noting. She shaped an entire generation of Hell Park fans and is among the most devoted to the work of anyone out there. Thanks to her, we obtained and recovered a great deal of lost media that would otherwise have been all but impossible for many of us to access. That said, she is also credited with a number of the problems the fandom still grapples with to this day. Altariz was accused on several occasions of over-defending or even outright justifying much of Mod Pip's conduct in her videos and of downplaying the accusations made against Wire. Whilst the now-deleted video in which she rebuts most of the allegations against Wire was generally well received, there are certainly moments that raise an eyebrow or two. During her defense of Wire concerning the accusation regarding Kyle's Judaism, Altariz portrayed the community in a somewhat disrespectful manner and, moreover, stated incorrect information about the religion, claiming, for instance, that Jews are governed by the Talmud, which she referred to as the Jewish Bible. This stirred up a degree of controversy at the time, though it's frankly understandable that someone whose aim was simply to defend Hell Park hadn't researched a fairly secondary topic in great depth. The second issue was her complete glossing over of the many instances of Mod Pip behaving rudely towards fans of the work, dismissing it all as simply the way he is, which doesn't hold up especially well in light of the multiple accusations made beforehand. The third was her failure to address at all the genuinely unpleasant decisions Mod Ty made during his time on Hell Park's development, things like making Furkel, who is 16 within the story, the moderator of a forum dedicated to gore and plus 18 content. Among other questionable choices, Mod Ty bears much of the blame for so abruptly altering the story's direction. Many have pointed out that if Altariz truly wanted to present Hell Park in a balanced light, she ought to have shown the other side of the coin as well. Finally, there is the complete silence surrounding the accusations against Wire. Altariz sidestepped the subject of Wire entirely, which, once again, raised more than a few eyebrows. I've no desire to turn this channel into a hotbed of drama, so I'll leave it there. Please don't falsely accuse anyone of anything. I raise these points only to illustrate a serious problem within the fandom: toxicity. Rather than perpetuating this cycle, regardless of who ultimately holds the truth in this matter, the far healthier path is simply to get on with our lives. Both Altariz and Wire are far removed from the fandom now, and if they really do have their hands in something unsavory, justice will come in its own time. Our job is simply to separate the art from the artist and to enjoy the work. This is the last I'll say of Wire in this Iceberg, and I hope that, with that, the case can be considered closed. We Need Them. We Need Them was an alternate reality game that was never finished, of which we have only this single surviving video.
We made it. 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 We made it.
video centers on a creepypasta about a user reading Hell Park on Tumblr when one of the panels unexpectedly depicts Pip in a bloodied, brutalized state. The ARG was never deciphered, and I haven't managed to track down the channel that originally uploaded it. Various testimonies, however, attest that this genuinely was an ARG that was simply never brought to completion. Honestly, I haven't the faintest idea what this video might mean. My only working hypothesis is that it was meant to promote the infection from hell, given that the ARG surfaced at around the same time. Also, credit to Peaks for providing me with the original video. Supernatural Encounters: The Journey, Trial, and Execution of Kevin Stoley. Supernatural Encounters is, without a shadow of a doubt, the most bizarre, magnificent, and disturbingly beautiful story in the entire Hell Park universe. It's a full, head-to-toe novelization of the whole story, written by a pair of Russian mods following Hell Park's cancellation. Essentially, back during Hell Park's earliest days, Wire and a team dedicated to translating Hell Park into Russian gained access to a handful of sketches of Kevin Stoley in a spacesuit, along with some small doodles of something Wire had christened the Mgal Mgal. Working from this, and from Wire's notes on one of the endings she'd devised for Hell Park, the Russian team wrote a novelization of the story, which was then expanded considerably after the cancellation. This story explores some genuinely dark and abstract themes that were, sadly, discarded in the West. For example, and I'm not joking, Craig Tucker travels through time to a reality where all is lost, meets a cosmic space turtle who tells him that love is the answer, and ends up facing off against a Babylonian beast called the Mgal Mgal. Yes, it's a rather strange story. But even in its strangeness, it's a cornerstone of the Slavic fandom, and it inspired both me and a group of others to make the Hell Park video game, which takes the tale told in this very novel as its foundation. The original story ends with Kevin traveling through an alternate reality where he meets God, who reveals to him that Hell Park is, in fact, but one of many timelines, dropping hints that South Park and all of its fanfics are canon within this larger universe, and that everything has happened in one timeline or another. So Hell Park, Mirai Park, South Park, West Park, Dead Park, and all those AUs we know and love are canonical across alternate timelines. The tragic part, however, is that according to this story, in reality number 2910, where the events of the original Hell Park comic take place, everything ended up destroyed and broken at the hands of the Mgal Mgal. Well then, this is the final entry, the bottom of the iceberg, the darkest and most obscure corner of this entire lore. What could possibly be waiting down here? What could be more unknown, more shadowy, than everything we've already laid eyes on? God. God in Hell Park was ignored across many iterations of the story, out of fear of stirring up controversy. The original story works perfectly well without a figure like God, but what if I told you that God did, in fact, exist within Hell Park? It's true. Not only was it a discarded concept, his involvement was to have been absolutely crucial to the story's development, and he is, indirectly, responsible for everything that unfolds in Hell Park. God, in the Hell Park universe, was known as the Creator, or the Creator of Color. Upon creating the earth, and being a being made wholly of love, he was forced to excise the evil from his own being, separating all that was good from all that was wicked. This tumor of malice came to be known as the Mgal Mgal, a magnificent yet repugnant being that was cast into the depths of the earth and sealed away. But God could not kill it, for a being like it was as eternal as God himself. Only a love that was not eternal, fragile, fleeting, human love could ever hope to stop it. And so the Mgal Mgal lay dormant, generation after generation, buried directly beneath what would one day become South Park. According to the Hell Park novelization, the Mgal Mgal's presence beneath the town is the very thing responsible for the show's signature madness and for so much of its violence. Want to know why all the AUs get cancelled? Mirai Park, Dead Park, the 1800s AU, Orphanage Park, Silent Park, SP The End, Expiravit Park, Revenge Park, Reconnect SP, Crime Park, Liar Liar, even the very Hell Park comic we all know and love. Every one of those stories ends the same way. Once the AU comes to an end, for one reason or another, the Mgal Mgal awakens and the whole of humanity is enslaved. It's extraordinarily dark, especially if you're a die-hard fan of South Park's AUs, to imagine the grim fate awaiting every single timeline, since in all of them the cosmic tumor stirs and the characters meet their end. Obviously, it isn't canon. Each fanfic was cancelled for its own separate reasons. But that doesn't make it any less profoundly unsettling, fitting, perhaps, that it should be the deepest entry in the entire Iceberg. And that brings us, at last, to the very bottom. Thank you so much for watching all the way through, for lending me your time and your curiosity across both parts of this iceberg. Whether you're a longtime fan of Hell Park or simply a curious passerby who wandered in, I'm truly grateful you came along for the descent. Take care of yourselves out there, and I'll see you in the next one. That's the whole iceberg logged and filed. Every secret, every rumor, every cosmic tumor sleeping under a cartoon mountain town. Tell me which entry keeps you up at night down in the comments, and subscribe so I can keep digging. I always find something.